Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, everybody can hear me and see me. Before we start our class, before we start our lesson, somebody could be kind enough to inform me that the audio is good. We have no issues, nothing technical. Bidnillahi ta'ala. Bismillah. Obviously, it's my right hand that I'm drinking with. Mirror, camera. So, nobody, please, inshallah ta'ala, go crazy saying, the sheikh is drinking with his left hand in front of us. Audio is good, Idris Barker. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you. King Jallo, my man. Abu Bakr, hayakallah. Kayf halukum. It's good to see you, Habibi. It's real good to see you, mashallah. May Allah bless you. And once again, this is my right hand, even though on the camera it looks like my left hand. Okay? The watch is on my right hand. Okay? So we're not drinking with our left hand in front of everybody. Abu Rumaysa, hayakallah. All right, let's get started, inshallah ta'ala. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, sallallahu sallam mubarak ala rasulillah. So we are in Kitab al-Raj'ah. And we've reached al-Bab al-Thalith, the third chapter. The author says, Bab al-Iddati wal-Ihdadi wal-Istibraa wa ghayri dhalika. It states in English, al-Iddah, al-Ihdad, al-Istibraa, and other pertaining matters. It states here in the footnotes, we're on page 389. Iddah is a period in which a woman waits after the death of her husband or divorce, and she is not allowed to marry in this period. There are three kinds of iddah: iddah of birth, iddah of menses, and iddah of months. For a pregnant woman, in either case, death of the husband or divorce, her iddah is up to the birth of child. For example, one night before she is divorced or her husband dies and next day she gives birth to a child, she is not free from puerperal blood. It is not proper to have sexual intercourse with her. Ihdad is the observing of mourning for her husband who has died. Istibraa is the elapse till one menstruation period has passed in the case of a newly purchased slave woman. Okay, so that's what it says here in the footnotes. It's not absolutely clear, but it isn't unclear or totally vague, in my humble opinion. Inshallah, we want to simplify and clarify things even more. So, when we speak about marriage and we speak about divorce, how does a person get a divorce? What are reasons behind a divorce? What are causes for divorce, etc.? There's a waiting period or waiting periods in which a man divorces a woman or a man dies, in which the divorced woman or the widowed woman cannot remarry. She has to wait. And the same applies to a woman who isn't a wife, who isn't a divorced wife, with regards to the rulings in al-Islam of slavery and the rulings of concubinage and the rulings of lineage and genealogy, and how Islam, under any circumstance, always strictly guards lineage and genealogy. And there's never ever a time in which lineage and genealogy is ignored and neglected. And we just have a sloppy, no holds barred mixing and matching and pairing. It doesn't work like that. There's never a time in Islam in which two gardeners are allowed to water the same tilth. Period. It never ever exists. The only time something like that exists is in a zina. And this is one of the wisdoms, there are many, of the reasons that zina is haram in Islam is that it slices lineage and genealogy. And we don't know who is the rightful gardener to this garden. We have 5 gardeners all sowing their seeds, pouring their water, and one patch of earth, one patch of land, all right? Shrubs and bushes, etc. It doesn't exist like that in Islam. So things didn't work out between this one and that one. That's fine. He leaves. She gets a divorce from him. Khula' talaq. She cannot remarry until a certain period of time passes by. Let alone the other wisdoms of the iddah with regards to reconciling and fixing things, if things can be fixed, etc. All right. Now, if a man divorces a woman in which with whom he did not have intercourse, the marriage was not consummated, then that's a different story. Once he divorces her, there is no iddah period. She can remarry the next day, that same day. Understand? But if intercourse was made, if there was connection, then there is a time of waiting. And one of the wisdoms behind this is the prevention of the sloppy mixing of genealogy and lineage. Hifdhul ansab is very important in Islam. Hifdhul ansab. And in a society in which people's lineage and their genealogy is ignored or neglected or mixed up or unknown, we know that we're going to have major problems in society. Okay? All right. As-San'ani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says in the commentary on page 219, volume 6, 2 volumes and 1 book, 5 and 6, Subul as-Salam, for those who wish to follow along with us, read with us. And as a student of knowledge, or any student of knowledge, as we've said many times before, this is a must-have and a must-read book for any self-respecting Hadith disciple. Obviously, we're speaking about Arabic. If you're fluent in Arabic, it's a must-read. Even if you don't focus and specialize in Hadith. If you're a Sharia guy or a Nusuli guy, if you're a fiqh guy, if you're a Hanbali guy, or a Shafi'i, Hanafi, whatever, it's something that you have to have in your library. Bottom line. Okay. As far as if you study comparative fiqh, you don't stick to one madhab, you don't abide by the rules, the rigid rules of one madhab from beginning to end, A to Z. This is a must read for any student of fiqh al-muqaran, comparative fiqh, a must read. And any student of fiqh al-hadith and fiqh al-sunnah is a must read, a must have. Okay, moving forward. Page 219, San'ani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, Al-iddatu بكسر العين المهملة اسم لمدة تتربص بها المرأة عن التزويج بعد وفاة زوجها أو فراقه لها إما بالولادة أو الأقراء أو الأشهر، والإحداد بالحاء المهملة بعدها دالان مهملتان بينهما ألف وهو لغة المنع، وشرعا ترك الطيب والزينة للمعتدة عن وفاة. As far as the first term, iddah, obviously with an ayn, then there's a kasra vowel sound under the ayn. Iddah. Not udda, not adda, but iddah. And the iddah is a mudda, he says a period of time in which a woman who is a widow or she has left her husband or given birth, or excuse me, widow or divorce, she has to wait. تتربص. She is to sit still. And that is determined by her giving birth, determined by the aqra, qur, meaning a pure state or a menstrual cycle, and or if not, then at least months. So number one, she is divorced in May. She has 4 months left until she's supposed to give birth. They're going to induce her birth or her water breaks, whatever the case may be. Okay, so let's count the months. May to June, June to July, July to August, August to September. So when she gives birth on the 30th of September, she's now out of the Iddah period. Whatever the reason of her Iddah was. Or Aqra, 3 menses, or 3 pure states. And if not, she's too old, she doesn't menstruate anymore, menopause, or whatever the case may be, mature, better word than old. Or she's too young, she was divorced and she's too young, she doesn't have a mens. Then she has to wait 3 months. 3 months before she can remarry. Okay. As far as ihdad, the kasra once more, then it literally means prevention, mana', no, stop sign, al-man'u, prohibition. And legislatively, meaning in the sharia, the fiqh meaning is tarq al-tibi wa zinati, as a woman avoiding perfume, makeup, fancy, attractive clothes, nice clothes, lingerie, anything nice, attractive. للمعتدة عن وفاة, for a widow. A woman whose husband dies, traveling, making hajj, making umrah. He died as a mujahid, a ghazi, fi sabilillah. He died on the battlefield. He died of sickness. He died of COVID. He died of cancer. She is now a widow. For a period of time, she is not allowed to put on perfume. She's not allowed to wear makeup, nice, attractive clothing. She's not allowed to beautify herself while she's in that period of mourning. Khayran, inshallah ta'ala. So those, and last but not least, he doesn't explain istibra. And an istibra, as we read in the English footnote, in the rulings, emotions, feelings, politics, culture, none of those things are on the table of discussion right now. We're not talking about morality, immorality, is it okay, blah, blah, blah. None of those things are on the table of discussion with regards to slavery. But what we are discussing are the rulings of a woman who is a slave before she is allowed to become the right-hand possession of another man, and before he's allowed to legally have intercourse with her, and before she is allowed to legally provide children for this new owner, there is a period of waiting, i.e., she is to be sold or bought, captured, passed down, inherited, regardless of how it works, to a new man, a new master, and then he has intercourse with her, and he is unsure, uncertain, a previous man had intercourse with her, whether someone who owned her, someone who captured her, someone who stole her. What's important is this slave girl, the slave woman, she is to bear a child, and that child has to be known who the father is. And this is one example of some of the differences and lack of parallel between slavery in al-Islam, according to the Islamic Sharia, and slavery in other legislatures, other legal systems, let alone other parts of the world and other cultural norms and references. Antebellum, Southern slavery, serfdom in Russia, slavery in the Mesoamerica with the Aztecs, etc. What's important is that there is no, you sleep with a slave woman and then she gives birth to these babies and then that's it. Whose babies are these? Who do they look like? They're mulatto, fourth white, yellow babies, this and that, half breeds, blah, blah, blah. They're just to live by themselves. The master doesn't acknowledge the babies, even though they may look like him. The master doesn't acknowledge that he had intercourse with this slave. The master goes to church on Sunday. He has a wife, a mistress, who's bitter, who's scornful. She calls the slave girl a fornicatress, beats her, goes crazy with her. You dirty, filthy Jezebel, you fornicatress. You tempted and seduced my pure Christian husband. And the Christian husband, the master, he has intercourse with the slave woman, and she bears him baby after baby after baby after baby. And the master doesn't acknowledge those children. I don't know who those children are. Those yellow, half black, half looking white babies, they aren't mine. He doesn't provide for them. He doesn't feed them. He doesn't take care of them. They have no right to inheritance. They do not bear his name, his lineage, nothing. He just sleeps with the slave woman. She rears children, and then that's it. It does not work like that in Al-Islam. Those are not the rules. That's shunned and condemned and prohibited in Al-Islam. Overseer on the plantation, the supervisor, the one who makes sure that the slaves do their work as they're supposed to work for their master and bring the profit for their master, he cannot just dip in and taste and savor the flavors of the slave women. They bear children. They don't know who their daddy is, those kids. It doesn't work like that in Islam. No two men can sleep with one slave woman at the same time. If a woman is legally passed to another owner, then she has to sit and wait before that new master, that new man can have intercourse with her. And that is al-istibraa, which means the freeing and the checking of her womb, i.e., she's not pregnant, i.e., the garden hasn't been watered by another gardener. The seeds are sown there. No, she has to wait to make sure that she's not pregnant. He has to wait before he can have intercourse with her. Concubinage, which is legal in Islam, he cannot have intercourse with her until she sits and waits. Khairan inshaAllah ta'ala. And as I said before, this is one example of how things in Al-Islam, with regards to slavery, which of course is going to be a difficult thing to discuss for many people, many of us. Painful, this and that. How can Islam allow slavery? What do you mean there are slaves in Islam? So on and so on and so forth. That's not the topic of discussion right now. We're not speaking about that. But we're speaking about the ahkam, the rulings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. So therefore, any woman who has intercourse, who had intercourse with any man before she has intercourse with a new man, there is a period of waiting. Clear or not, guys? Hopefully that's clear with regards to what these terms mean in Arabic and in English. Inshallah ta'ala, if you guys can let me know that this is clear before we move forward. We don't want anyone to feel confused or lost, or someone to say, I don't understand, I don't get it, or why are you teaching this book? This is too difficult, this is above my head, blah, 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 etc. That's more than clear, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullahu khairan. All right, so the first hadith, Hafidh bin Hajar, may Allah have mercy upon him, the author, he states, عن المسور بن مخرمة أن السبيعة الأسلمية رضي الله عنها نفست بعد وفاة زوجها بليال فجاءت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فاستأذنته أن تنكحه فأذن لها فنكحت. رواه البخاري وأصله في الصحيحين. وفي لفظ أنها وضعت بعد وفاة زوجها ب40 ليلة. وفي لفظ لمسلم قال الزهري ولا أرى بأسا أن تزوج وهي في دمها غير أنه لا يقربها زوجها حتى تطهر. So the first hadith is hadith 945 in English, page 389. Narrated Al-Miswar bin Makhrama radiyallahu anhu says, some nights after her husband's death, Subay'a al-Aslamiyya radiyallahu anha gave birth to a child. She then went to the Prophet ﷺ and asked permission to marry. He gave her permission and she married. This is reported by Al-Bukhari. Its source is found in the two Sahih books of Al-Bukhari and Muslim. A wording has, she gave birth to a child after 40 nights of her husband's death. A wording by Muslim has Az-Zuhri said, I think there's no harm if she marries when she is still bleeding owing to delivery, but her husband should not go near her till she is purified. Once more. عن المسور بن مخرمة أن سبيعة الأسلمية رضي الله عنها نفست بعد وفاة زوجها بليال، فجاءت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فاستأذنته أن تنكح فأذن لها فنكحت. رواه البخاري وأصله في الصحيحين. وفي لفظ أنها وضعت بعد وفاة زوجها ب40 ليلة. وفي لفظ لمسلم قال الزهري: ولا أرى بأسا أن تزوج وهي في دمها، غير أنه لا يقربها زوجها حتى تطهر. So Miswar bin Makhrama, he reports that there was a woman whose name was Subay'ah, and she was from the tribe of Aslam, Banu Aslam. So this woman, Subay'ah, nufisat ba'da wafati zawjiha bilayalin. All right, she had her postnatal bleeding it says layalin, nights after her husband had died. She was a widow and she was pregnant. She was a pregnant widow. All right, she gave birth. She had the postnatal bleeding. All right, and this was a few nights after her husband's death. So she went to the Prophet, فَجَاءَتِ النَّبِي صَلَّى اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ فَاسْتَأْذَنَتْهُ أَن تَنْكِحَ. And she said, "O Messenger of Allah, can I get married? Can I get married now?" فَأَذِنَ لَهَا. Yes, you can. He allowed her. فَنَكَحَتْ. And that is exactly what she did. She got married. رواه البخاري. And this hadith is found in Sahih Bukhari. And it is originally, the original story, the gist of the story is found in both Bukhari and in Muslim. And in another version, another form of this hadith, it states, أنها وضعت بعد وفاة زوجها ب40 ليلة. She gave birth after the death of her husband 40 nights afterwards. 40 nights afterwards. وفي لفظ لمسلم, and another version of this hadith states, Az-Zuhri, from the Sighar al-Tabi'een, Ibn Zuhri, he said, وَلَا أَرَى بَأْسًا. He says, me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with her getting married. وَهِيَ فِي دَمِهَا, while she's bleeding. غَيْرَ أَنَّهُ لَا يَقْرَبُهَا زَوْجُهَا حَتَّى تَطْهُرَ. But her husband isn't to touch her until she stops bleeding. She can perform the nikah, bleeding, but no intercourse, no consummation of the marriage while she's bleeding. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. So the simplification of the translation, or the explanation of the translation, is this woman, Subay'ah, okay, her husband died, she became a widow, and at the same time she was pregnant. She had her postnatal bleeding. She wanted to get married. The Prophet allowed her to get married. The Prophet ﷺ did or did not tell her how long her cannot wait or to get married. You're a widow, how long are you supposed to wait until your husband has died? 4 months and 10 days, or birth. So it's 2 iddahs. Think about it. The iddah of a widow and the iddah of a pregnant woman. So normally the widow would wait 4 months and 10 days. But because she's pregnant, as if this hadith teaches us, is that giving birth, the pregnancy iddah trumps. It takes precedence over the iddah of her being a widow. So if, for argument's sake, listen carefully now, a man divorces his wife and she's 9 months pregnant, the next day she gives birth, iddah, in theory, would be done. Even though she didn't wait 3 months, nor did she wait 3 menses or 3 pure cycles, because she's pregnant. That's the superior iddah here, in theory. A woman who's a widow, she's supposed to wait 4 months, 10 days. Let's say her husband died a day before she gave birth, 30 minutes before she gave birth. Her iddah, she would no longer be a widow the moment she The doctors say it's a girl, it's a boy. Everybody understand? Capiche? You guys on the same page, inshallah. All right. As-San'ani, rahimahullah ta'ala, in the commentary, he says, عن المسور بكسر الميم وسكون السين المهملة فواو مفتوحة فراء ابن مخرمة بفتح الميم وسكون الخاء المعجمة وفتح الراء تقدمت ترجمته أن السبيعة بضم السين المهملة فباء موحدة فمثنات تحتية تصغير السبع وتاء التأنيث الأسلمية نفست بضم النون وكسر الفاء بعد وفاة زوجها. And first and foremost, the student of knowledge, this should show you the importance of ضبط الأسماء وضبط القراءة. All right, the proper pronunciation of words and the proper way of reading, and that is important before you even get into the fiqh or the hadith. And many students of knowledge talk about aqidah and manhaj and bid'ah and tawheed, let alone talking about other people. He's this, munharif, he's a mubtadi', da 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 da, and he can't even read Arabic properly. He's stuttering and stumbling and stammering and flopping all over the place, saying the kasr, the dhamma, the fatha, and he's talking about people. Kayf hada? How is that even ma'qul? How does that even make sense? Clearly showing you that your priorities are jacked up. You're talking about people, or you're discussing things that are way above your pay grade. You can't even read Arabic properly. So that's a huge problem. Very interesting story. I remember many years ago, I was listening to a cassette tape. And there was a cassette tape by late Sheikh Muqbil, rahimahullah ta'ala, the muhaddith of Yemen, well known, Allah yarhamu. And the Sheikh rahimahullah, he was talking about different things that were going on in Yemen, students of knowledge, Marak, different centers, etc., 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 right? So, the Sheikh, he mentioned that someone had sent a letter to another scholar there, a leader of a markaz there, in his name. Someone had forged a letter in his name. And if my memory serves me correctly, Allahu Alam, the letter was forged very well. I think they had a stamp, they had stolen it. It looked like it was from Sheikh Muqbil. So they sent the letter to another scholar. He was a leader of a markaz there, and they were trying to do something. It had something up their sleeve, some type of conspiracy they were trying to get, but they needed Sheikh Muqbil's approval. So the Sheikh of the markaz, he got the letter, and he started reading the letter, and he had noticed some akhta nahwiya, akhta imla'iyya. He saw some mistakes in grammar, and he saw some mistakes in imla, the rules of writing and the rulings of the dictation in Arabic, imla. So he said, wait a second, everything else looks good, this is Sheikh Muqbil's style, blah, 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 blah. But these mistakes in the language, nah. Sheikh Muqbil would never ever make that error. Writing it in a letter, a person can say something wrong with speech. He could be rushing, he could stutter, he could mispronounce something, but you take your time to write it out. This basic khata, imla, this and that. And then this sheikh, his intuition, his spider senses, is the hair on the back of his neck, it tingled, it stood up. And he contacted Sheikh Muqbil. And he said, Ja'atni, blah, 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 your letter, blah, 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 blah. Did you write this? And of course, Sheikh Muqbil said, of course I didn't write that. He said, that's a lie, that's forged, blah, 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 blah. What's the highlighting point from the story? The moral of the story is that the scholar knew it wasn't Sheikh Muqbil because of the sloppy language. Everybody get the moral of the story? So your Arabic has got to be tight. It got to be razor sharp. You can't be stumbling and fumbling off of basic stuff, talking about aqidah and the book of Allah, the tafsir, and hadith and Quran, let alone the honor of other Muslims, other people that have studied overseas for years, have taught for years, have written books for years. And you talk about those people. You're defaming them, speaking about them, and you don't even have basic Arabic down packed. So something is obviously wrong. And the one who has encouraged these ignorant fools to behave like this, and it's okay, and this is the way of the Salaf, Jarh Ta'dil, woe to him. All right, so that's first and foremost. Moving forward, Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, speaking about this, her husband, هو سعيد ابن خولة توفي بمكة بعد حجة الوداع. Her husband's name was Sa'id ibn Khawla, and he died in Mecca after the farewell pilgrimage. بليال وقع في تقديرها خلاف كثير لا حاجة إلى ذكره ويأتي بعضه قريبا. He says there's a long discussion on how many nights, how many days exactly passed by before this says a few nights afterwards. All right, he says here فجاءت قال الحديث دليل على أن الحامل المتوفى عنها زوجها تنقضي عدتها بوضع الحمل ولم يمضي عليها 4 أشهر و10 ويجوز بعده أن تنكحه. وفي المسألة خلاف، فهذا الذي أفاته الحديث قول جماهير العلماء من الصحابة بغيرهم لهذا الحديث والعموم قوله تعالى وولاة الأحمال أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن، والآية إن كان ما قبلها في المطلقات لكن ذلك لا يخص عمومها، وأيد بقاء عمومها على أصله ما أخرجه عبد الله بن أحمد في زوائد أو في رواية المسند والضياء في المختارة وابن مردوية عن أبي بن كعب قال قلت يا رسول الله وولاة الأحمال أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن هي المطلقة 3 أم المتوفى عنها؟ قال هي المطلقة 3 والمتوفى عنها. وأخرجه ابن جرير وابن أبي حاتم وابن مردوي والدارقطني عن أبي من وجه آخر قال لما نزلت هذه الآية قلت يا رسول الله هذه الآية مشتركة أم مبهمة؟ قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أية آية؟ قلت وولاة الأعمال أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن المطلقة والمتوفى عنها زوجها؟ قال نعم. وثبت عن ابن مسعود عدة روايات دالة على قوله بهذا. وأخرج عنه ابن مردوي قال نسخت سورة النساء القصرى كل عدة وولاة الأحمال أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن أجل كل حامل مطلقة أو متوفى عنها زوجها أن تضع حملها. وأخرج ابن مردوي عن أبي سعيد الخدري قال نزلت سورة النساء القصرى بعد التي في البقرة ب7 سنين. وأخرج الشيخان وأبو داود والترمذي والنسائي وابن ماجه وابن جرير وابن المنذري وابن مردوي عن أبي سلمة بن عبد الرحمن أنه قال كنت أنا وابن عباس وأبو هريرة رضي الله عنهم فجاء رجل فقال أفتني في امرأة ولدت بعد وفاة زوجها ب40 ليلة أحلت. قال ابن عباس تعتد آخر الأجلين. قلت أنا وولاة الأحمال أجلهن أن يضعن حملهن. قال ابن عباس ذلك في الطلاق. قال أبو سلمة أرأيت لو أن امرأة جرت حملها سنة فما عدتها؟ قال ابن عباس آخر الأجلين. قال أبو هريرة أنا مع ابن أخي يعني أبا سلمة، فأرسل ابن عباس غلامه كريبا إلى أم سلمة يسأله أمضت في ذلك سنة؟ فقالت قتل زوج سبيعة الأسلمية وهي حبلى فوضعت بعد موته ب40 ليلة فخطبت فأنكحها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. وأخرجه عبد بن حميد من حديث أبي سلمة وفيه أنهم أرسلوا إلى عائشة فسألوها فقالت ولدت سبيعة مثل ما مضى إلا أنها قالت بعد وفاة زوجها بليال. وفي الباب عدة روايات عن السلف دالة على أن الآية باقية على عمومها في جميع العدد، وأن عموم آية البقرة منسوخ بهذه الآية الكريمة مع تأخر نزولها كما صرحت به الروايات، فينبغي أن يكون التخصيص أو النسخ متفقا عليه. وذهبت الهدوية وغيرهم. ويروى عن علي عليه السلام أنها تعتد بآخر الأجلين إما وضع الحمل إن تأخر عن 4 الأشهر و10 أو بالمدة المذكورة إن تأخرت عن وضع الحمل، مستدلين بقوله تعالى والذين يتوفون منكم ويذرون أزواجا يتربصن بأنفسهن 4 أشهر و10. قالوا فالآية الكريمة فيها عموم وخصوص من وجه. إلى آخره. طيب, moving forward, or going back, got lost reading the Arabic there, sorry. He says this hadith proves as that a pregnant widow finishes her iddah with delivery, even if 4 months and 10 days do not pass. She is allowed to get married a day, 30 minutes, a week after her husband has died, even though she's supposed to mourn him and she's supposed to wait 4 months and 10 days. If she is pregnant, the moment she gives birth, the iddah is done. It's over. That is what this hadith proves. San'ani states, he says, وَفِي الْمَسْأَلَةِ خِلَافٌ. There's a great arguing, or great amount, or much arguing concerning this issue. There's a lot of khilaf. There are different views concerning this issue. This is the thing proven by the hadith. She gives birth, the iddah is done. And this opinion here is the view of the majority of the ulama, jamahir ulama, overwhelming majority of the scholars of Islam, from the Sahaba on down. From the Sahaba on down. As-San'ani, obviously we read much. He makes a very long, extensive, and highly nutritious scholastic argument on this issue. The proofs for that view, and those who say that she is to wait the 4 months and 10 days, or those who say that she is to wait the longest of the two iddahs. Whatever iddah is longer, whether her pregnancy is still 5 months or 4 months, 10 days. Everyone understand? So we'll summarize that. We won't mention all of the details. There's a lot of high level, high octane, a lot of strong ilm, which is going to take us outside of our simple discussion. So what's important is, as the first hadith has shown us, is that she is to, she can get married after she has the child. And she doesn't have to wait 4 months and 10 days. And other scholars, they say otherwise. Some say the 4 months, 10 days, or some may say that it is the longest of the two iddahs. So if she has 3 months left in her pregnancy, then they say she is to wait 4 months, 10 days. If she has 2 months, or vice versa. Everyone understand this, inshallah ta'ala? Let's say she's in the first month of pregnancy. Then those scholars are going to say she does days. Rather, she is to wait until she gives birth. Khairun, inshallah ta'ala. And the first view is the view of the overwhelming majority of the scholars of al-Islam. What's important is, this goes to show the importance of marriage. And it's not like how we live today. Many people, they think and they feel that marriage is only based off of love. People who've watched too many soap operas or dramas or movies, whatever the case may be, TV, that, you only get married because of love. Okay? Or people who think and feel because of cultural norms that a man who, or woman who rushes into a marriage, their terminology rush is, they're just, hot in the pants. They want to get married. Okay? Your husband just died. Your wife just died. You just got a divorce. You're jumping into another marriage just like that. You're rushing into a marriage just like that. Give it some time. Slow down. Take a break. You're et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Many people, they talk like that. Many Muslims, unfortunately. That's fine. You can have your opinion. We all know what opinions are like. Everyone has one. That's fine. But Kitab and Sunnah, different story. Your opinion, your emotions, your feelings, what you feel, you rushed into this marriage, you shouldn't have got married like this. Oh, you just got a divorce. Oh. Fine, tayyib. Kitab and Sunnah, different story. So you need to check your iman when you talk about other people. All right, that's first and foremost. And of course, we know the harms of these different cultures and how they butt heads, they clash with Quran and Sunnah. And of course, when people leave off Quran and Sunnah and they obey their culture and follow the culture, we know that they suffer. They suffer. May Allah help all of us, starting with myself. Ameen. Okay, so therefore there's no shame in a woman getting married shortly after her husband's death. It doesn't mean that she doesn't love her husband. It doesn't mean that she didn't love him. It doesn't mean that she's not emotionally, it doesn't mean none of that. But it means that a woman needs a man and a man needs a woman. It's a haq. I gotta get married. It's nothing personal. Like they say, it's business. You owe me money. If it was up to me, I would give it to you for free. But it's not about friendship, it's about business. When I go to re-up, I can't say, hey, I gave Brother Fulan a free such and such. It doesn't work like that. My supplier isn't going to say, oh yeah, that's right, I'm not going to charge you for new stuff because you gave it to a friend. It's business. All right, so professionalism. All right, if you get married, I love my wife, I miss her, but at the same time, I have needs. A woman says, I loved my husband, he was a great man, but I need a husband, I need a protector, I need a provider, etc. All right, moving forward. From the benefits pertaining to this issue, وقال النووي في شرح مسلم قال العلماء من أصحابنا وغيرهم سواء كان الحمل ولدا أو أكثر كامل الخلقة أو ناقصها أو علقة أو مضغة فإنها تنقضي العدة بوضعه إذا كان فيه صورة خلقة آدمي سواء كانت صورة خفية تختص النساء بمعرفتها أو صورة جلية يعرفها كل أحد. وتوقف ابن الدقيق العيد رحمه الله فيه من أجل أن الغالب في إطلاق وضع الحمل هو الحمل التام والمتخلق، أما خروج المضغة والعلقة فنادر والحمل على الغالب أقوى. قال المصنف: ولهذا نقل عن الشافعي قول بأن العدة لا تنقضي بوضع قطعة لحم ليس فيها صورة بينة ولا خفية. وظاهر الحديث والآية يعني ظاهر الآية الإطلاق فيما يتحقق كونه حملا، وأما ما لا يتحقق كونه حملا فلا لجواز أنه قطعة لحم، والعدة لازمة بيقين فلا تنقضي بمشكوك فيه. Nawawi states, scholars have said, the Shafi'i scholars and others, is that if she gives birth, then she gives birth. One child or more, twins, triplets, etc. Kamil al-khilqati, perfectly formed, missing a leg, disformed, missing an arm. Alaqatan aw mudghatan, a lump of flesh, a clot of blood. Whatever, however it comes, the iddah is done. Regardless, he says either can if he, all right, as long as it's obviously she gave birth. He says Adami, to a human being. What is she giving birth to besides Allahu Alam? Only Allah knows. What's important is Adami, a human. Okay? And other scholars, they say that no, it has to be clearly deformed. It has to be clearly human in the form or the image of a human being. All right. Khairan inshallah ta'ala. And some scholars, they say that the iddah isn't over if she gives birth to a piece of flesh, a lump of flesh. It's not over. But it has to be the form of a human. Adami has to be a human being, a body that comes out of the womb. As-San'ani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says the hadith and the ayah don't give any specification. They don't give any specification of what the baby, the child has to or can or cannot look like. All right? And obviously, they're saying this with regards to making sure that she actually gave birth and not just some abnormal bleeding or things like this. Next question is miscarriage. A woman who's pregnant, she's a widow, she has a miscarriage. Does that pertain? Does the ruling pertain or not? Stillborn, does it pertain or not? That is a fara. That's a branch from the root. All right, we'll stop here, and we'll try to take some questions, inshallah ta'ala, in the dream. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best, and with him is all success. Wa sallallahu sallam wa baraka ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad.